Hello, everyone. I think we got everything situated here now. Um, Today we are doing lesson 28. Above all else, I want to see things differently. And we are doing chapter 3, the innocent perception, section 6, judgment and the authority problem. Shall we begin? Section 6, judgment and the authority problem. We have already discussed the last judgment, but in insufficient detail. After the last judgment, there will be no more. Judgment is symbolic because beyond perception, there is no judgment. When the Bible says, judge not that ye be not judged, it means that if you judge the reality of others, you will be unable to avoid judging your own. So, let me, excuse me, I got a hair tickling my arm. Let me share something with you all. As I've been doing this course and being shown the truth about judgments and so forth, I'm finding less and less that I'm wanting to or even willing to judge another, even when they ask me to. I'm recognizing more and more how detrimental judging is. Not just for those around me, but for myself. And that is what it's talking about here, is that as your eyes get open to the truth about these judgments that you're holding on to and believing in, less and less do you want to judge. And it's coming to a point where I'm no longer wanting to judge for any reason, so I'm seriously letting go of all judgments. And that's what it's talking about there, is that learning to let go of the judgments in lieu of the truth. That as you begin to see the truth, you stop judging. Because you accept the truth of what it is you've been doing. That's the atonement, folks. Recognizing that you're doing it all to yourself, and that it's your judgments and your opinions that you're handing out to people. That's hurting you.
The choice to judge rather than to know is the cause of the loss of peace. Judgment is the process on which perception, but not knowledge, rests. I have discussed this before in terms of the selectivity of perception, pointing out that evaluation is its obvious prerequisite. Judgment always involves rejection. It never emphasizes only the positive aspects of what is judged, whether in you or in others. What has been perceived and rejected, or judged and found wanting, remains in your mind because it has been perceived. One of the illusions from which you suffer is the belief that what you judged against has no effect. This cannot be true unless you also believe that what you judged against does not exist. You evidently do not believe this, or you would not have judged against it. In the end, it does not matter whether your judgment is right or wrong. Either way, you are placing your belief in the unreal. This cannot be avoided in any type of judgment, because it implies the belief that reality is yours to select from.
And this just reinforces what I was talking about. It's our judgments, our opinions that we've been taught to believe in to be true, that we keep projecting out there, manifesting these things that we think we are perceiving. And it's learning to let all of those things go. We keep judging and believing we know what's best for others. Even when those folks come to us sharing where they're at and what they're going through, we seem to believe it's our right to judge them and tell them what they should or should not be doing. We're not accepting them as they are, folks, when we do that. Anytime we are giving advice to our brother, we are not accepting them as they are, as who they truly are, with the knowing and understanding inside themselves if they would simply look within and ask what it is they're misperceiving. One of the things Holy Spirit has me do a lot is ask questions, and it drives Alex nuts. When he's sharing something with me, I don't simply give advice or anything of that nature. I ask a question. And 9 times out of 10, it's a question that leads one to look within at what they're thinking and believing, what they're feeling and experiencing. And a lot of times, they don't want to look. They don't want to examine what they are truly experiencing. They have a thought in their mind that they are stuck on, and they can't see past it. They're not willing to see past it in that moment. And in those instances, I have to just say, okay, all I can tell you to do is pray to Holy Spirit about it and ask Him what you should do, because I don't have an answer for you. The only guidance I ever get is to look within and to look at what it is I'm thinking, feeling, believing, and experiencing, and ask Him, what is it I'm misperceiving in it? And that is part of helping them to recognize that whatever it is that they are thinking in their heads is what's causing them to experience what they're experiencing. Let's continue. 3. You have no idea of the tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brothers totally without judgment. When you recognize what you are and what your brothers are, you will realize that judging them in any way is without meaning. In fact, their meaning is lost to you precisely because you are judging them. All uncertainty comes from the belief that you are under the coercion of judgment. You do not need judgment to organize your life, and you certainly do not need it to organize yourself. In the presence of knowledge, all judgment is automatically suspended, and this is the process that enables recognition to replace perception. This is what I'm talking about, folks, about once you start seeing the truth and recognizing it for what it is, you let go all desire to continue judging your brothers or judging yourself. You start seeing the truth of where your brother is at, what they are thinking and believing in those moments because you've been there yourself. You can see what's on the other side of it, the truth of what it is they're doing. Hence why I ask questions. This is part of the process of looking within at everything. As we do so, these truths are brought to us full force, full blown. And in those moments, you have a choice to either continue believing as you are or to let go of those beliefs and take in and enact that truth within your life, extending it to your brothers in a sharing of what has happened with you. As I share my experiences with you, I extend to you my truth. What I have been shown is the truth. All of it replaces the perceptions that I had of myself before. It replaces the perceptions I've had of my brothers. When I recognize the truth, I am no longer projecting that out. Let's continue.
You are very fearful of everything you perceive, but have refused to accept. You believe that because you have refused to accept it, you have lost control over it. This is why you see it in nightmares, or in pleasant disguises in what seems to be your happier dreams. Nothing that you have refused to accept can be brought into awareness. It is not dangerous in itself, but you have made it seem dangerous to you.
Yeah, this here is seriously talking about how when things are put out in front of us and we refuse to accept it as the truth, we are fearful of it in those moments. And that is part of the problem that we all face. Our fears. Letting go of those fears that are blocking us from accepting the absolute truth. Let's continue. Did you want the tea, dear? Okay. All right. 5. When you feel tired, it is because you have judged yourself as capable of being tired. Excuse me, motorcycle going through the neighborhood. Let's try that again. When you feel tired, it is because you have judged yourself as capable of being tired. When you laugh at someone, it is because you have judged him as unworthy. When you laugh at yourself, you must laugh at others, if only because you cannot tolerate the idea of being more unworthy than they are. All this makes you feel tired because it is essentially disheartening. You are not really capable of being tired, but you are very capable of wearying yourself. The strain of constant judgment is virtually intolerable. It is curious that an ability so debilitating would be so deeply cherished. Yet, if you wish to be the author of reality, you will insist on holding on to judgment. You will also regard judgment with fear, believing that it will someday be used against you. This belief can exist only to the extent that you believe in the efficacy of judgment as a weapon of defense for your own authority. So this is going back to the lesson of, I want to say yesterday or the day before, where it was talking about how we attack and we see only vengeance and things of that nature. And in the same way, it's talking about how every time we judge, we think it's, our greatest defense to judge another before they can judge us. And we are so terrified of those judgments being laid upon us because we believe that these judgments are true. They're not. They are a lie. And these judgments tell you what you think about yourself and what they think about themselves. And I'm sure many of you have realized that the more you judge, the more tired you feel, the more anxious angry, frustrated, depressed, the more you want to just lay down and take a nap, just run away from the world. The more you judge, the more you're terrified of being judged yourself. Let's continue.
God offers only mercy. Your words should reflect only mercy, because that is what you have received, and that is what you should give. Justice is a temporary expedient or an attempt to teach you the meaning of mercy. It is judgmental only because you are capable of injustice.
Yeah, what I'm getting with that is as I was being shown the situations I went through as a child with my rapists and my molesters, I was constantly being judged because I had been touched. And I was judging them, thinking that all I wanted was justice, to see them punished for everything that they had done to me, to see them punished for all the judgments that were being laid upon me. And I kept judging them and judging them and judging them as these evil, horrible people that only needed to be killed, a bullet in the head, dismembered, whatever. And I mean, those are some pretty bloodthirsty thoughts for a child to have. And after a while, I came to realize that the kind of judgments of what type of justice they deserved was doing no more than eating at me. And I was paying the price for them in the diseases I was incurring in my body. The cancers, the diabetes, the high blood pressure. I was only hurting myself with them. And that wasn't justice. Justice wasn't being served. Let's continue. I have spoken of different symptoms, and at that level there is almost endless variation. There is, however, only one cause for all of them, the authority problem. This is the root of all evil. Every symptom the ego makes involves a contradiction in terms, because the mind is split between the ego and the Holy Spirit, so that whatever the ego makes is incomplete and contradictory. This untenable position is the result of the authority problem, which, because it accepts the one inconceivable thought as its premise, can produce only ideas that are inconceivable. And that just kind of goes right back to what I was talking about a moment ago, about the diseases that I was incurring in my body. That those were the symptoms of my ego judgments. My belief that I was right and they were wrong. My belief that the only justice for them would be the things that I said was going to be right. And that was my mistake, my misperception. And in the truth, all of those ideas are absolutely inconceivable, because I could not see myself doing any of them to those people. And believe me, I had some pretty bloodthirsty thoughts. Drawn and quartered, keyhauled. Keyhauling is where you tie a person to a mast of a ship, and drag them underneath the ship multiple times across the barnacles on the ship that are on the bottom of the ship. And then you set them adrift in a lifeboat. Basically bleeding to death. Those were mental pictures I had as a child. Taking a gun and putting it up to their head and pulling the trigger. Grabbing an axe and chopping them up, dismembering them. Cutting off their genitals and feeding it to them. Those are the types of pictures I had in my head as a child. Very bloodthirsty, very angry, very violent, very painful, very hurtful. Those were the kinds of things that I was wishing for to happen to these people. That was the type of justice I was wanting for them. I wanted them to feel as much pain and suffering as I was feeling from the judgments of my family and their friends and my peers.
The issue of authority is really a question of authorship. When you have an authority problem, it is always because you believe you are the author of yourself and project your delusion onto others. You then perceive the situation as one in which others are literally fighting you for your authorship. This is the fundamental error of all of those who believe they have usurped the power of God. This belief is very frightening to them, but hardly troubles God. He is, however, eager to undo it, not to punish his children, but only because he knows that it makes them unhappy. God's creations are given their true authorship, but you prefer to be anonymous when you choose to separate yourself from your author. Being uncertain of your true authorship, you believe that your creation was anonymous. This leaves you in a position where it sounds meaningful to believe that you created yourself. The dispute over authorship has left such uncertainty in your mind that it may even doubt whether you really exist at all. You know, I can think of a ACIM teacher, I won't name any names, but he makes some videos. And there was a couple of videos where it sounded like he was saying that you don't really exist, that this is all a dream and none of us exist.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Thank you. I needed that reminder. And actually, there's quite a few folks that call themselves teachers out there that have that belief that the world isn't real. You're just an illusion that they made up in their minds and you don't exist. Things of that nature. And I'm getting now what it's talking about. You know, God's creations are given their true authorship, but you prefer to be anonymous when you choose to separate yourself from your author. And, you know, God is our creator and he gives us authorship of ourselves. That's why we have free will, because we already know who and what we are inside. We've simply forgotten. And when we let others judge us, they are trying to put their authorship on us, telling us who they believe and think we are. And that's what it was talking about here, about us getting upset with them and not wanting to accept their judgments of us. And the fundamental error is that we're believing that they can author us by believing in their judgments and opinions. In those instances, we hand them our power of authorship of ourselves. And that's what it's talking about there, is that we are willingly handing authorship of ourselves to other people when we accept their judgments or when we ask for their opinions. We're not accepting responsibility for our own choices and decisions.
I would like to point out one thing on the second sentence of that paragraph I just read. Let me reread that again. The issue of authority is really a question. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just start from the beginning. The issue of authority is really a question of authorship. When you have an authority problem, it is always because you believe you are the author of yourself and project your delusion onto others. And so the way I understand that is we didn't create ourselves. God created us. Excuse me, I have a cat.
Yeah. Which is why I was saying that God is our creator. He has given us authorship to know who we are, to know what we are. But we are not the creators of ourselves.
Correct.
So you were absolutely correct in that as well. It's God is our creator. We did not create ourselves. And the authorship that I am getting an understanding of with this is talking about when we give someone else the power to judge us and give us their opinions. We are handing our power to them in those moments. We are no longer claiming authorship of knowing who and what we are.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm getting that you sense something different with it.
Well, I'm just reading, through this paragraph again, and this sentence stands out to me. This is the fundamental error of all of those who believe they have usurped the power of God.
And that's what our judgments is a belief that we know better than God.
Right. Yeah, and I guess, anytime we believe that something has gone wrong, we believe, that we've made a mistake, that we're wrong or somebody else is wrong, we have usurped the power of God.
Anytime we are judging,
we're usurping the power of God, yeah.
Exactly. Anytime we hand out an opinion, we are saying that we know better than God. When we think something's gone wrong, or we know better, we are saying we know better than God. We know more than God. Not possible. All right, let's move on. 9. Only those who give over all desire to reject can know that their own rejection is impossible. You have not usurped the power of God, but you have lost it. Fortunately, to lose something does not mean that it has gone. It merely means that you do not remember where it is. Its existence does not depend on your ability to identify it or even to place it. It is possible to look on reality without judgment and merely know that it is there. So, anytime we think we are being rejected by another, feeling rejection, anything like that, it simply isn't possible. In those moments, we are judging that we are lacking in something. And it's recognizing that in those moments, nothing has gone wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. They are misperceiving, you are misperceiving. When you're feeling that feeling of rejection, you have misperceived and judged something to be other than what it is. You've placed more value on something that you are believing in than on the truth. Those are the moments we go within and look at what it is we're thinking and believing to be true. Let's continue.
Peace is a natural heritage of spirit. Everyone is free to refuse to accept his inheritance, but he is not free to establish what his inheritance is. The problem everyone must decide is the fundamental question of authorship. All fear comes ultimately and sometimes by way of very devious routes from the denial of authorship. The offense is never to God, but only to those who deny him. To deny his authorship is to deny yourself the reason for your peace, so that you see yourself only in segments. This strange perception is the authority problem.
What does it say to you?
Well, I want to I'm rereading this sentence. All fear comes ultimately, and sometimes by way of very devious routes, from the denial of authorship. And the denial of authorship is what all fear comes from.
The denial that God
Created us,
created us,
and God is,
perfect in his image, flawless,
and everything that happens is perfect
and for our benefit.
and for our benefit.
It's
Right.
because we continuously judge.
And that nothing has gone wrong. As soon as we start believing that something has gone wrong or could go wrong, that's where fear comes from.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it's talking about there, that God isn't offended by any of this. He isn't even really aware of what we are doing and how we are doing it. He simply sees us as his children playing a game, playing make-believe and pretend. You don't look outside at your children and tell them that they're playing wrong, that their make-believe scenarios that they're doing out there is all wrong and they need to do it this way instead. You just don't do that. You let them be children and play as they play, letting their imaginations run wild and free. And in the same way, our Father does that exact thing with us. He is letting us enjoy ourselves in our imaginations. Continuing. There is no one who does not feel that he is imprisoned in some way. If this is the result of his own free will, he must regard his will as not free, or the circular reasoning in this position would be quite apparent. Free will must lead to freedom. Judgment always imprisons because it separates segments of reality by the unstable scales of desire. Wishes are not facts. To wish is to imply that willing is not sufficient. Yet no one in his right mind believes that what is wished is as real as what is willed. Instead of seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, say, will ye first the kingdom of heaven? And you have said, I know what I am, and I accept my own inheritance. And that, folks, is talking about recognizing that you are making the choices and decisions in everything it is you are feeling, thinking, experiencing within your lives. And that until you have the willingness to sit down, do the work, and look at these things, you're going to continue with this, oh, I wish I could have this, and I wish I had money for that, and I wish that this would happen, and I wish that this wouldn't happen, and all these things get you nowhere. We manifest what we believe in. We can create these things instantaneously if we will it to be. If it is true and it is in the right-minded thinking of Holy Spirit as an extension of love, not to get something, you can manifest it instantaneously. All you have to do is believe. That was Chapter 3, The Innocent Perception, Section 6, Judgment and the Authority Problem. Moving on to today's lesson, which is Lesson 28.
Above all else, I want to see things differently. Today we are really giving specific application to the idea for yesterday. In these practice periods, you will be making a series of definite commitments. The question of whether you will keep them in the future is not our concern here. If you are willing at least to make them now, you have started on the way to keeping them. And we are still at the beginning.
So, what this is talking about, folks, is recognizing that the little willingness you are having right now to do these lessons is all that's being asked of you. And to understand that the more you do them, the more truths you will be given. And an example of this would be for me, this is now our 4th year of doing this course. And as I have been learning these truths, I'm finding that I'm no longer having to do the lessons every day because I have already accepted these truths into my life. And it was the fact that I was willing to do them in the first place that has made it so that I'm not having to continue doing them now in the same depth and precision. I keep the thought in the back of my mind of what the lesson of the day is, and I see it throughout my day and throughout my life. Continuing on. You may wonder why it is important to say, for example, above all else, I want to see this table differently. In itself, it is not important at all, yet what is by itself? And what does in itself mean? You see a lot of separate things about you, which really means you are not seeing at all. You either see or not. When you have seen one thing differently, you will see all things differently. The light you will see in any one of them is the same light you will see in them all. What I'm getting from this is there's a recognition that comes into play of recognizing that everything that you have been taught to believe in to be true, the meanings you've been giving everything around you, all your experiences, the people, may not be what you have been thinking them to be at all. And it's seeing yourself and everyone around you and everyone around you within yourself. Seeing your connections to the things that you have in your life. What meanings are you putting on them? What value? Go ahead.
I lost my place.
When you say above all else?
Yeah. When you say, above all else, I want to see this table differently, you are making a commitment to withdraw your preconceived ideas about the table and open your mind to what is and what it is for. You are not defining it in past terms. You are asking what it is rather than telling it what it is. You are not binding its meaning to your tiny experience of tables, nor are you limiting its purpose to your little personal thoughts.
And it goes back to what I was just saying. Everything around us, we have put a meaning to it. This is for this, that is for that.
What's coming up for me is a picture in my mind of, well, a gunslinger sees a table as a shield rather than something to eat off of.
Yeah.
Or a potential shield.
As a potential shield. Or medieval times. The trestle table, the table that they would eat their meals on, was also used as an operating table. It was also used as a table for cooking the foods on and mixing the foods on. It was used in all kinds of different ways as a barrier to keep people out. So, what is a table for? I mean, really, what really was it used for?
Reminds me of a line when I was a kid, a teenager, when Little Mermaid came out, and one of the characters said, "This is for this, and that is for that," and how we judge everything on what something is for.
Yeah, she had gizmos and gadgets and whatchamacallits and thingamajigs and doohickey-wahs. and she's like, what do you do when you have everything? She had no idea what they were really called. But she just saw them as these things together. I remember that. It was a cute little movie. All right, moving on. You will not question what you have already defined, and the purpose of these exercises is to ask questions and receive the answers. In saying, above all else, I want to see this table differently, you are committing yourself to seeing. It is not an exclusive commitment. It is a commitment that applies to the table just as much to anything else, neither more nor less. So it's telling us right there that our little willingness to ask the question, to ask for the correction, is all it takes. And we will be shown the truth of what it is. We just have to ask.
You could, in fact, gain vision from just that table if you would withdraw all your ideas from it and look upon it with a completely open mind. It has something to show you, something beautiful and clean and of infinite value, full of happiness and hope, hidden under all your ideas about its real purpose, the purpose it shares with all the universe. Wow, talk about putting a table up on a pedestal. I mean, it's just a table, right?
No, it could be the pedestal.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, you take a little pillar, put it next to a chair in a living room, and you have yourself an instant side table to put a cup of coffee on. Yet that same pillar, you put a bust on it, or a bus, however the heck you say that word, and you now have a table with a piece of art on it as a display.
Our cats think our table is a bed to lay on.
Yeah, or a place to come and try and eat our food off our plates. All kinds of things. But that's the general idea there, is that giving up the ideas of what you believe something to be. And when you do that, a whole plethora of understanding comes to you of what you've done by placing a limit on what it is and what it's for. Continuing. In using the table as a subject for applying the idea for today, you are therefore really asking to see the purpose of the universe. You will be making the same request of each subject that you use in the practice periods, and you are making a commitment to each of them to let its purpose be revealed to you, instead of placing your own judgment upon it. So do the work, folks. Do as it asks. Don't judge it. Just do it. And seriously ask yourself the questions that come up. If it's true, ask for correction and ask to see it differently. Continue.
We will have 6 2-minute practice periods today, in which the idea for the day is stated first, in which we will have 2 6-minute practice periods today, in which the idea for the day is stated first and then applied to whatever you see about you. Not only should the subjects be chosen randomly, but each one should be accorded equal sincerity as today's idea is applied to it, in an attempt to acknowledge the equal value of them in all their contribution to your seeing.
As usual, the application should include the name of the subject your eyes happen to light on, and you should rest your eyes on it while saying, "Above all else, I want to see this blank differently." Each application should be made quite slowly and as thoughtfully as possible. There is no hurry. This was Lesson 28, Above All Else, I Want to See Things Differently. And the Chapter 3 text of The Innocent Perception, Section 6, Judgment and the Authority Problem. Do the work, folks. Do the work. Do it as it's asking you to do it. You don't have to believe it. You don't even have to accept it as being true. Just do the work. And I guarantee you, you will start to see things differently. We all do. We can't help but do so. Because all of us are tired of being in the hell of the beliefs that we've created for ourselves. Come walk with me. Join me in finding the truth. We can find it together by extending it to our brothers. We love you. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sabrina Reyenga.
And I'm Alex Reyenga.
Have a wonderful day. Love, light, and blessings to all of you. Namaste.